this image most people have when they hear the word art. It's either a wide room with paintings all over it, little to almost no labels, or the other version is the version of the misunderstood artist, the one that is creating works of art and the world cannot comprehend them, or the artist is like way too ahead of its time, but he lives miserably and cuts a year, and only hundreds of years after he died, people start to recognize his work of art. I want to offer you a completely different version of it, of what art means. Because I do believe that engaging with art daily is a practice that can help you so much, that can open so many amazing possibilities for you, and that can evolve your own mindset and thoughts. And it doesn't matter if you are like a really newbie in that regard. It doesn't matter if you're going to museums. Like, art is not only about museums. It is also about how we live our daily life. This is why I want to explain what I mean by referencing to art and what is the difference between art with a capital A and art with lower cases. Art with a capital A is a certain distinction that was invented by European Enlightenment movement. It basically creates a canon. The Italian Renaissance painters especially, they are within that canon, but anything that is not European or Western are not part of art with a capital A. Art with a lower case is much more older, much more wider, and it incorporates the whole earth. Like, it's a global movement, and not only a movement, but also a practice, what people genuinely do creatively, because of course we are creative beings. The oldest evidence we have of this creative and artistic impulse dates back 51,000 years ago. Recently, it was discovered in a cave in Indonesia, a painting that depicts 3 human beings and a wild pig. This is basically exactly the lens that I want to incorporate in my video to show you how art can help you make your life better. So the first point I want to make is the fact that art teaches you to see connections, not only in artworks, but also in your own life. But I want to represent this by looking at a painting, so that I will give you the example of the painting and then we will move to real life situations. So here, as you can see, is the Arnolfini portrait. It was painted by Jan van Eyck in 1434, and it depicts a man and a woman holding hands in a way in what seems to be a nice, cute house in Bruges. The thing is that, of course, if you just take a look at it, perhaps a lot of people know it because it is so famous in art history, but it is famous for a reason, because it offers so many hints without a specific explanation. So of course we see that both of these persons are really nicely dressed for that period of time. The woman holds her dress in a very interesting way towards her belly. A lot of people may think that it is because she's pregnant, but actually it is a sort of courtesy and a sort of way to just showcase her really expensive dress and the texture it makes. If you look at it even further, you can see a chandelier and only one candle in that chandelier, which is directed to the man. The candle signifies the omniscient God that is blessing this couple. Another version may be that the woman has actually passed away, and this candle is representing him still being alive and mourning his wife. If you look right in the middle, what catches the eye is a convex mirror. If we zoom into that mirror, we're actually going to see a really interesting reflection of the room and the 2 people, but also the words that Jan van Eyck was there. He's basically not only the painter, but he's also the witness to this either marriage, either contract, or the portrayal of a mourning husband. Even now, 600 years later, we don't know what is the exact truthful version of it. And that is exactly the point I want to make. This painting being unsolvable is exactly how I look at life. If we just zoom in too much at specific little details, we may not find how they are related to each other. But if we zoom out and we actually look at them cohesively together, then we can actually discern what is going on, or try to at least hypothetically think about it. So I want you to think about a chapter in your life that when you went through it, You didn't really understand why is it there. You're just like, okay, why did this happen? And then 5 years after that, let's say, specific chapter in your life, you kind of understand like, oh, this is why I had to see that person, because now I can reach out to her and we're actually going, to a trip together. Or because, oh, this is why I understand that I took a specific course with a specific professor that semester, because right now I'm actually working with him on research. Art teaches us how to make these connections and to know that maybe, if we are in a specific time in our life, or like maybe things are a bit difficult and we don't understand why is it for, think of it as a painting, think of it as something that is still unfolding, and maybe, you just painted like only the background and now you have to go to the main characters to paint them. Wait a little bit more time until it all makes sense. There's a second thing that happens when you start engaging daily with art, and this is you start noticing that your senses are being sharper and your perception of reality is being changed. In 1935, a German philosopher named Walter Benjamin wrote an essay about technology and modernity, and it was called The Work of Art in the Age of Technological Reproduction. Why is this relevant? Because Benjamin was living in the period when film and photography were just emerging. So, of course, instead of, let's say, looking at a painting and immersing yourself fully into it, there started to appear so many reproductions of that painting that are on postcards. It became like more available to like the mass public, which on the one hand is like pretty amazing, but on the other hand, it made the human attention to details and to things that really matter less focused. Benjamin had a word for that kind of situation, and he named this the loss of aura. And by aura, he meant the quality of your presence in front of something that truly matters. He really made this distinction that I really keep returning to, which he said, distraction and concentration form polar opposites, which may be stated as follows. A man who concentrates before a work of art is absorbed by it. In contrast, the distracted mass absorbs the work of art. You can either absorb something that is important and just like scroll past it, or you can let the work of art or the song or the book absorb you into it. Benjamin was advocating for being present. If you want to look at an artwork, just look at it for 5 minutes or 10, but be fully present in those 10 minutes. I think this is so relevant right now because let's say if you engage more with art in your daily life, you start to be fully present in a moment and just try to, concentrate on one thing at a time. And it is not related only to artworks, but it is related to anything that we are going through in life. Being fully present and knowing what we are looking forward to can really attract the right people, the right experiences, and the right ideas into our life. So now let's go to the third thing that I want to talk about. Art gives you language for the emotions you don't really know how to frame. Have you ever felt this kind of mix of emotions whenever you're looking at painting and like you're so overwhelmed by it, or maybe confused, or when you're listening to a song and it hits you and you're just listening to that song and you feel so many things you cannot even name them. Naming your emotions is crucial in all aspects of our life. If we want to have really good relationships with people, if we really want to understand ourselves better, naming our emotions is so important. I genuinely believe that art can help you so much in understanding your emotions, because when we engage with art, our senses are so alert in a way. We are stimulating them through our vision, through even our smell or hearing and so on, and we perceive something that we don't really quite understand. Just trying to make sense of what I felt is already something that really can help you understand further your emotions. When you can talk to someone and you can say that like, look, I felt so frustrated, and you can name your emotion, it instantly becomes more tangible and you can talk it through and understand why did it come and how can you make it, pass. Now, I also want us to go a little bit back to the Van Eyck portrait. Try to think about how it makes you feel. At least for me, when I look at it, I kind of feel a little bit of warmth because it's a bit of like a comfort kind of room there, but it also has something that I cannot fully understand, that is something of a mystery to me. Every painting has a certain weight to it and a certain feeling, and getting to like look at a painting and kind of think about how it makes you feel is already something so good, because you can literally discern your emotions better. And finally, art teaches you to sit with not. knowing. I think that this might be one of the most important things that art teaches you, and I'm also learning this as I am getting more accustomed to what art is in general. We as humans, we're always seeking to solve the uncertainty. We don't really like when things are uncertain, and I can truly say it from my own experience. I think that is so important, and that art teaches us to sit with ambiguity and to be okay with it. This is literally what art is. Let's look back at our Arnolfini portrait, and we don't really have an answer to what is depicted here. We don't even know the exact reason for why this painting was made. We have so many opinions and so many ideas of what is potentially going on, but we don't have something clear. The English poet John Keats had a word for this capacity. He called this negative capability. So he described it as when a man, obviously, is capable of being in uncertainties, mysteries, doubts, without any irritable reaching after fact and reason. Negative capability is basically the ability to hold open questions without needing an exact answer to them. And I genuinely think that art trains you this. It makes you be completely open to ambiguity and to embrace it in a way. Now, I don't say that everything in our lives should be ambiguous, but it also trains you to interpret things and to be okay with not having an exact answer. This muscle that we are training when we are just sitting with ambiguity and with 1,000 of potential answers can also help us during periods in our life when we don't really have a clear answer. Let's say when we switch careers or when we graduate and we really don't know which way to go. I feel like just embracing this very moment and just being okay with it without seeking for further clarification. I mean, eventually it will come, obviously, but just being able to sit in that moment and realize that, you know what, I'm fine. I know that an answer is gonna come sooner or later, and it's okay for me to be in this ambiguous state. So now, I really think you might be asking, that's really interesting, but what do I do with this? How can I incorporate this in my life to make it better, as you said? And this is exactly what we're gonna cover in this last chapter of this video. So practice number 1 is the slow look. And basically, it is super simple. It also trains our attention that we really need right now. And it's basically choosing an artwork. And by artwork, I mean literally everything, like street art, or if you want, you can go to a museum, or just, pull an image of a painting that you really like on your phone and look at it for 5 minutes uninterrupted. Not only just stare at it, but I want you to follow a certain narrative. So first, look at the forms. Even if it's like a very complex image, just try to discern it into geometrical forms. And then when you kind of discern that, like, okay, this looks like a square, this looks like a circle, these people are arranged in a triangle, which is also interesting. I want you to look at the color. Like, what are the colors telling? Are they, really warm or maybe like cold? And how do you perceive them? And after the color, even if it's like a two-dimensional, like you're looking at it for a phone, just try to discern what is the texture like. And after the texture, how does it make you feel? Maybe you can just write it down because it can also train your ability to express your emotions. And this is also what Benjamin described as practicing your aura to let the artwork absorb you. The second practice is the free word log. Here, we are basically learning how to make good connections between things and between our chapters in life. So basically, I want you to just look at something like a piece of art and just write down 3 words. The first is what you saw. The second is what you felt when looking at it. And the third, perhaps the most important one, is what it reminded you of. When we just write down things, let's say you saw an artwork or maybe a building, there was something in that specific ornament that reminded you of the painting you saw last week in a gallery. You can basically connect them to, and then this builds your ability for making connections in life. The last practice is the deepest kind of thing, so I suggest you do it whenever you have some time to sit with yourself, the life chapter painting. If you want to seek, let's say, for some clarity regarding a certain chapter in your life, just think about that kind of chapter and then just search online a painting that relates to that chapter of your life. You don't have to have an explanation, just basically set this intention that, like, I'm looking right now for a painting to define that chapter in my life, and just search for it. And the one that clicks is the right one. I don't want you to force the connection, but just try to ask these 2 questions. What does the composition of this painting tell me about that period of my life? And what did I not see while living it? When we need some more clarity, looking at a chapter of our life through a lens that is completely different from what was going on there can really reveal to us some answers that we didn't even know were present in that time. I really hope you managed to get something useful from this video. If so, I would appreciate it tremendously if you could give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel or both, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.